Hey, welcome back. So I'm going to be working again on my CBX today. I have a lithium ion battery that I'm trying to hide underneath the bike. So I'm going to build a battery box. So you can see it's a very small form factor. It should have enough cranking amps to get the bike to start, but it's nice because it reduces a lot of the weight, which is not a big concern, but the size is really what I was after. So now I don't need to have a big bulky battery right in the middle of the frame. So I'll mount this below the swing arm. I'm going to mount it against the frame, but I'll build a battery box out of some steel that I have. So I'll fold it, get it into a good shape that fits around this box, and then I'll have to mount some brackets on either side. And then I will mount it to the brackets that the center stand was previously on. So this is the first time I built this box, so we'll go through that and see how it turns out. All right, enjoy. So here is where I'd like to mount the battery. There is space in between these two brackets, so I bent these out a little bit, and this is where the center stand was. So the bike didn't come with a center stand, so I'm going to trim this tab off, and that will give me the ability to place the battery up against the back of the frame here. Once that's pushed back, I should have pretty good clearance. Right, obviously this back wheel isn't going to be moving forward or anything like that. But I'd like to build it so that I have enough clearance between the top of the battery and the swing arm, so it doesn't matter if I hit bumps, whatever. And you can see I still have really good ground clearance. So when I build the box, I'll add some brackets on the side so that I can repurpose these. This will be a really nice mount point on either side, and because I can bend these, I can get it to a place where it just hugs the box, and then I'll be able to put a bolt through that, and then I will use a washer on the other side to hold it in place. So we'll start on a piece of drafting paper. So I'll pull the battery out, and then we can start tracing around the battery. So I'm gonna try keeping the pencil up and down, just because I'll have a little play when I bend the metal. And then I need to determine how tall I want the box to be. So when the box goes in, I'm probably going to put this foam underneath just to give the battery a little shock protection. And then I will probably have the box come up to about here. Okay, so we have a nice pattern for the box. So now I can cut this out, and then once I cut it out, I can trace it onto metal. All right, we have our pattern cut out. This padding on the bottom. We've got the battery in here, and then we have the box. So I think this will be a good shape. We can also put foam padding down the sides if we need to, if it's a little too big. Obviously, it's better to be a little too big than a little too small. All right, so now we need to get this traced out on metal. All right, so I have some thinner metal here. I think this is 22 gauge, but it's not large enough. So I may have to use 16 gauge, which is a little bit thicker. It'll be a little more difficult to bend, but it may make sense in this application. Now I can use the angle grinder to cut out the box. All right. I can go and clean up all of the edges, and then we can bend it. All right, so we have all the edges smoothed out. It's all pretty clean. So now we can start bending it. I'm gonna use this to help give us a line. And we'll clamp this down. And then we can start bending. Okay, let's see how that did. All right, so there is one bend. And if I had a metal brake, this would definitely be easier. So I should be able to do the same thing on the other side. All right, we have the two sides. Now we need the other two. So luckily, my vise is just the right size. So what I'm gonna do is, before I bend this other side down, I'm gonna see if I can get everything in a little bit closer. To here, you can see the box is a little bit tighter now on these corners. So it's not perfect, but we are in a pretty good spot. So I'm going to drop this in, make sure it's good. Yep, this is a good size for this battery. And we can see if we can tighten this up a little more from the vise. So we've got the sides of the box pretty close. And then let's test now. So I think that's gonna work. And I need to now cut out some side brackets, almost like a 90-degree. And this is what will clip to the center stand mounts on the CBX. So I probably don't want the battery any higher than this. That way I have plenty of travel on the swing arm. So I'll need to put the little mount right here to mount that. And then I also need to get this cut off, which I may have to do by taking off the swing arm because I don't have great access to this. So in order to take the wheel and the swing arm off, we'll just have to remove the shocks, and then we should be able to pull the whole wheel swing arm assembly away from the frame so that we'll have access to that. All right, switching to my grinding disc. All right, so now that tab is clear and we should have plenty of room to fit the battery box in there. So let's bend these back. So the next thing I'll need to do is cut this in half. I'll make a 90-degree. I'll drill a hole in each one, and then I'll be able to weld the top to the box. So I'll take a piece of steel that I had left over, and then we can use this. So it's about 6.5 centimeters. So now I'm going to drill holes through these. Okay, then we need to bend each one of these into 90-degree angles. One. Now we have these two that are ready to be mounted on the battery box. Alright, so not the best, just little tack welds, but it'll keep the box together. Now that we have this in place, I'm going to weld that tab. Just tack it down to start. This all looks like it's in a good spot. So I need to finish welding all the way around these tabs, so I don't have to worry about them coming off. You can see this one really needs to be welded down. So at this point, we're ready to powder coat the battery box. So I went through and tried to clean up some of the welds, made sure everything was secure, and then I filed down some of these edges to make sure that there were no sharp pieces that were going to dig into the battery. You can see I cut holes on the front and back. This is going to allow air to get to the battery. That way all that heat is not trapped inside, but the box still has plenty of rigidity because we used some pretty thick metal here. So I need to get this mounted to the grill here that we're going to place inside of the oven, and then I will powder coat this the best I can. So we're all ready to powder coat. Now we can get our part in. And we'll set a timer for 20 minutes. All right, part is done and it's dry. Pull it off and see how it looks. So we have good coverage all the way around the box. I think the inside was covered pretty nicely, maybe a little bit by the corners. We've covered a little bit better, but this should work perfect for us. And then the battery drops in just like that. Okay, and then we'll put the foam at the bottom, the battery in. All right, looks great. All right, thank you for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe. I'm gonna be posting more on the CBX work that I'm doing. Take care.